Slams ought to be the most exciting and gruesome takedown in any bout. From Jackson vs. Arona to Mir vs. Lesnar, here are all the biggest slams in UFC history. Starting with the iconic bout that shook everyone in 2004, Jackson vs. Arona. After losing his first fight with Pride FC, Quinton Jackson quickly beat Ekuhisa Minova by TKO. And in June 2004, he fought the Brazilian light heavyweight Ricardo Arona. Near the end of the first round, Jackson did the best slam in the history of mixed martial arts by knocking out Arona cold to get out of a triangle choke. What's more, Rutten said that Quinton should try to keep it standing and Arona should try to take it to the ground to win. So Arona got in the ring first, then Jackson did. And to everyone's surprise, Jackson took the fight to the ground. He worked from a dangerous guard for most of the round before he slammed his way out of an Arona triangle choke and into the winner's circle with a knockout at 7:32. Jackson became the top contender for Wanderlei Silva's middleweight belt after his big win over Arona. This next slam has to be among the highlights of UFC history. Who could forget Hughes vs. Newton? Carlos Newton was the UFC welterweight champion when he met Matt Hughes for the first time at UFC 34 in 2001. But Hughes had almost 3 times as much experience fighting professionally as the champion. During their back-and-forth fight in Las Vegas, Nevada, Hughes proved that he was the man to beat at 170 pounds. He knocked out Newton with a slam in the second round while Newton was trying to get out of a tight triangle choke. For the first fight between Hughes and Newton, there wasn't much advertising. Hughes, the challenger, was the first one in the cage. Newton, who was wearing an afro and was with a female escort and 2 other men in costumes, came in next. Hughes said later that he was annoyed by Newton's entrance and that he wanted to teach him a lesson. What a way to humble a UFC fighter, am I right? In the first round, there was a lot of wrestling, and both fighters took control of the fight several times. But neither fighter landed any big blows during the round. Then Hughes took Newton down quickly with a slam early in the second round, then slammed him again against the cage as he tried to get out of a tight triangle choke. Hughes didn't know at first that he had won the fight until the referee stopped the action and said so. Talk about overkill. What's more, Newton never won another major MMA title again. But Hughes went on to become one of the most accomplished champions in the sport's history. He defended his welterweight title a total of 7 times during 2 separate title reigns. Speaking of humbling someone, this next slam really changed the course for the MMA fighter. When Tim Sylvia and Andrei Arlovski faced each other. This was back at UFC 51 in 2005, and Sylvia and Arlovski were 2 of the biggest names in the heavyweight division. But during the bout, Sylvia was able to take control of the fight with a huge slam that sent Arlovski crashing to the mat. It was a move that made Sylvia secure a unanimous decision victory. Pretty slick, right? The next bout has one of the most unexpected performances. I'm talking about the iconic Branch vs. Harris in 2010. Harris's third fight with the UFC was against an unbeaten newcomer named Dave Branch. It was on the preliminary card of the year's biggest pay-per-view show. Branch was an exciting prospect in his own right. He had learned jiu-jitsu from Renzo Gracie and had a strong base in the art. After 2.5 back-and-forth rounds, Harris won the fights on the ground while Branch did well on his feet. He earned himself an amazing knockout with less than 3 minutes left in the fight. In the third round, Harris took the opponent down and held him against the cage. Harris tried to get out of Branch's tight guard, but Branch still held on to him. He put his opponent out cold with a slam that reminded me of how Rampage Jackson knocked out Ricardo Arona in Pride. The finish not only gave Harris his second knockout of the night bonus in 3 UFC fights, but it was also one of the best knockouts of the year and even in the history of the sport. The knockout was so beautiful to look at that ESPN's SportsCenter showed some of the best parts of it the next day. In fact, it was one of the most talked about parts of one of the best fight cards of the year, even though it was part of the preliminary card. This next bout will have you in shambles. Randy Couture vs. Gabriel Gonzaga. This was back at UFC 74 in 2007, and Couture and Gonzaga were two of the biggest names in the heavyweight division. But Couture was able to take control of the fight with a massive slam that sent Gonzaga crashing to the mat. It was a move that helped Couture secure a unanimous decision victory. And this next bout was so gruesome, even the winner was unaware of his strength. It's the bout between Tokoro and Sadullaev. The first fight on the New Year's card was a bantamweight match between Tokoro and Sadullaev. At the bell, Tokoro came out with a flying knee, but his opponent caught him and slammed him into the ground. Then, in a scramble, his opponent grabbed his back and slammed him again, easily finishing him off. It seemed like the slam was what ended the match, since Tokoro lay on the floor almost motionless for several minutes. At 42 seconds into the first round, the official end came. Talk about gruesome. This next slam isn't shy of being historical. It's the slam that Fabricio Werdum put on Travis Browne. Fabricio Werdum's slam of Travis Browne was a defining moment in their highly anticipated bout at UFC 203. Werdum was the reigning heavyweight champion at the time and was facing a tough test in Browne, who was on a 3-fight winning streak. The two heavyweights were known for their striking skills and heavy hands, but it was Werdum's grappling expertise that ultimately sealed the deal. The fight was closely contested in the early going, with both men exchanging strikes and trying to establish their dominance. But Werdum was able to get a hold of Browne's legs and launch him into the air with a powerful slam. Browne landed hard on the mat and was unable to recover from the impact. Werdum took advantage of the situation and went in for the finish, but Browne was able to survive until the end of the round. Despite the huge hit, Browne was able to continue fighting and put up a tough battle. But Werdum's grappling skills proved to be the difference maker. He was able to control the pace of the fight and outstrike Browne, earning him a unanimous decision victory. Werdum's slam of Browne was a testament to his grappling skills and his ability to finish fights in spectacular fashion. The next slam is a classic one that brought the fight to an end. It's the Frank Mir vs. Brock Lesnar bout from 2018. At UFC 81, Mir was facing a massive, hulking wrestler in Lesnar. But Mir was able to use his grappling skills to pick Lesnar up and throw him down with a huge slam. The impact was so massive that Lesnar's head bounced off the mat, and Mir was able to secure a submission victory. And taking into account the fact that Lesnar was 278 pounds, it sure was a sight to see. Those were some of the biggest slams in the UFC. See you in the next video.